Anya Sharma walked into the boardroom with a confident stride, her tablet clutched in her hand like a shield. She had spent the last 2 years of her life on this project, a revolutionary new algorithm that could predict consumer trends with 95% accuracy. It was her magnum opus, the culmination of a decade of work in data science and artificial intelligence. Today was the day she would present it to the board and, more importantly, to the company's powerful and deeply insecure CEO, Julian Croft. Julian sat at the head of the long mahogany table, a smirk playing on his lips. His expensive suit was a stark contrast to his cheap cologne, a smell that always seemed to follow him like a bad omen. He was a man who had inherited his father's company and believed his own mediocrity was a sign of genius. His management style was one of fear and public shaming, especially towards any employee who might seem to threaten his fragile authority. Anya, a woman who consistently produced brilliant work, was a perpetual threat. "All right, Anya," Julian said, his voice dripping with condescension. "Let us see what you have cooked up this time. I trust this will be more useful than that last project of yours, the one that went nowhere." Anya ignored the jab. She knew the project he referenced had been sabotaged by his refusal to allocate resources properly. She took a deep breath and began her presentation, her voice clear and precise. She explained the technical architecture of the algorithm, the massive datasets she had curated, and the incredible potential for market dominance. She showed them graphs and projections, all pointing to a single, undeniable conclusion. This algorithm would make the company a fortune. The board members, a mix of old money and new tech, listened with rapt attention. They understood the numbers, and they saw the value. Julian, however, grew visibly agitated. He fidgeted in his seat, his eyes darting between Anya and the screen, a storm brewing in their depths. He could not stand the idea of her receiving credit for a success of this magnitude. "That is all very impressive, Anya," he interrupted, waving his hand dismissively. "But let us be real. The technical details are beyond most of us, and frankly, they are not what matters. What matters is the vision. I am the one with the vision. You merely put the pieces together." Anya felt a hot flush of anger rise up her neck. She had created the pieces. She had conceived of the entire machine. "With respect, sir, the vision is nothing without the execution, and this execution is entirely my work. The intellectual property is mine, and the code is a direct result of my team's efforts." Julian laughed, a sharp humorless sound that cut through the silence of the room. "Your team? Do you mean my team, Anya? This is my company. Everything in it belongs to me, including your little algorithm, but do not you worry. I will be sure to give you a small bonus for your hard work." He turned to the board. "Gentlemen, I have been working closely with Anya on this project, providing the strategic direction and the creative impulse. I am proud to announce the Croft algorithm. It will revolutionize our industry. We will be launching a new product line based on it within the next 6 months." He stood, his eyes fixed on Anya, a venomous smile on his face. This was it, the public humiliation he had planned. He was not just taking her work, he was rebranding it, making it his own, and rubbing her face in his power. He thought she would simply take the abuse and move on. He was wrong. Anya met his gaze, her own eyes now hard as diamonds. The humiliation had not broken her, it had forged her into something new, something dangerous. "Congratulations, Julian," she said, her voice eerily calm. "I hope you are ready for the responsibility." The meeting concluded with the board members offering Julian their congratulations. They did not even look at Anya. She gathered her things, her hands shaking slightly. She knew what she had to do. She walked straight to her office, opened her laptop, and began to execute her plan. The first step was to secure her intellectual property. Her employment contract had a clause about work created outside of company hours that did not use company resources. Julian had made a point of denying her requests for new hardware, forcing her to do much of the heavy lifting on her own time and on her own personal servers. It was a technicality, but it was a crucial one. She had an entire backup of the code, time-stamped and documented, ready to go. The second step was to find a new home for her talent. She reached out to an old colleague, Marcus Thorne, who had recently started his own venture capital firm. He had always respected her work and her integrity. She scheduled a meeting for that very evening. When they met, she did not mince words. She told him the entire story, from Julian's manipulative behavior to the blatant theft of her algorithm. She showed him the proof, the code she had written, the emails she had sent requesting resources, and the public records of Julian's presentation. Marcus listened intently, a grim expression on his face. "Anya, this is outrageous. We can do something about this. I can help you build your own company. You have the product, you have the talent, and you have the moral high ground. We will make him regret the day he ever crossed you. And so, Veritas AI was born. Anya became the CEO, and Marcus provided the seed funding and his extensive network of contacts. Her first priority was to hire the best and brightest, especially those who had also been mistreated by Julian's company. Her old team, now disillusioned and demoralized by Julian's leadership, was the first to join. They all came for one reason: to work for a leader who respected them, and to get their revenge. Julian, meanwhile, was living in a fool's paradise. He held press conferences, bragging about the Croft algorithm and promising a new era of innovation. The problem was, he had no idea how it worked. He could not debug it, he could not update it. When a major new market trend emerged, one that the algorithm should have easily predicted, the software failed spectacularly. A major investor called to demand an explanation. "Do not you worry about a thing," Julian blustered into the phone. "We are working on a patch. It will be ready by the end of the week." He called Anya's former team lead, Ben, into his office. "What is wrong with this thing? I told you to fix it. It is your job to make my vision work." Ben, who had already given his 2 weeks' notice and had joined Veritas AI in secret, simply shrugged. "With all due respect, sir, the code is complex. We need more time and a deeper understanding of its core architecture. Something only the person who wrote it would have." Julian fired him on the spot. He thought he was showing strength. In reality, he was cutting the final lifeline to his doomed project. He called an emergency board meeting, promising to unveil a major update and a new product line that would silence the critics. He was desperate. The day of the emergency board meeting arrived. Julian walked in, his suit now looking more like a borrowed costume than a symbol of power. The board members were stony-faced, their patience worn thin by the recent failures and the plummeting stock price. "Gentlemen," Julian began, his voice shaky, "I am here today to present the new and improved Croft algorithm. I have personally overseen the development of a major patch that will address all of the recent ... hiccups." Just then, the doors to the boardroom swung open. Anya walked in, followed by Marcus Thorne and a team of confident, professional-looking people. She was dressed in a sharp business suit, her posture impeccable. A hush fell over the room. "I apologize for the interruption, gentlemen," Anya said, her voice ringing with authority. "But I believe I have the true solution to your problem. And, more importantly, a better leader to implement it." Julian's face went white. He opened his mouth to protest, but Marcus stepped forward. "I have just completed a new round of funding for Veritas AI, a company founded and led by Anya Sharma. Her company has developed an even more advanced algorithm, one that has already been tested and proven to be 99% accurate." Anya walked to the head of the table, her gaze fixed on Julian. "You thought you could humiliate me, Julian. You thought you could take my work and claim it as your own. But what you failed to realize is that my work is not just code on a screen. It is the result of my expertise, my dedication, and my integrity. Qualities you lack entirely." She then presented the full evidence: the time-stamped code, the documentation, the emails, and the records of Julian's public statements. She showed the board the technical failures of the Croft algorithm and the disastrous financial consequences that had resulted. She then unveiled Veritas AI's new product, a sleek and user-friendly platform that demonstrated her new algorithm's power in real time, predicting a series of market shifts that were currently happening. The board members who had been skeptical moments ago were now completely captivated. Anya had not just presented a product, she had presented a vision. Her vision, a vision rooted in hard work and respect, not in arrogance and deceit. Julian was speechless. He watched as the board members turned their backs on him and began to ask Anya questions, their tone shifting from suspicion to genuine interest. The humiliation he had planned for her was now happening to him, 1,000 times worse, and in front of the very people he had tried to impress. Julian was officially fired, his ouster a quiet but absolute affair handled by corporate lawyers. He left the building that day not as a CEO, but as a man who had lost everything. His name, once on the company letterhead, was now a footnote in a long history of corporate mismanagement. His father's legacy was gone, destroyed by his own hubris. In the years that followed, Julian found that his old money and family connections were no longer enough to open doors. No one wanted to work with the man who had publicly stolen an algorithm and then bankrupted a company. His attempts to launch new ventures failed spectacularly, as the industry had a long memory. He became a ghost, haunting the same high-end restaurants and country clubs, But now sitting alone at a small table, a hollow look in his eyes, Anya's new company Veritas AI grew at a rapid pace. She hired many of her old colleagues, creating a work environment built on trust and mutual respect. Her leadership was a masterclass in collaboration. She gave credit where credit was due and fostered an atmosphere of open communication and innovation. The media, which had initially been skeptical of a small startup competing with an established company, now hailed Anya as a visionary. They documented Julian's fall from grace as a cautionary tale about ego and incompetence. The irony was not lost on anyone. Julian, who had sought to humiliate her, became the living embodiment of everything she had proven herself to be against. His fortune dwindled, and his reputation was in tatters. He was a cautionary tale for any aspiring executive who believed that power was a substitute for talent. She never forgot the day Julian tried to break her, but she did not let it consume her. Instead, she used it as fuel. She had learned a powerful lesson. True strength is not in tearing others down, but in building something great for yourself and for those who believe in you. She was the CEO now, not because she had inherited it, but because she had earned it, and she was going to make sure the world knew it.